Hey, how y'all doing? Edge is back at it again, complaining about the complaints. Look, Edge is fine as far as I'm concerned. I was never a huge fan of him when he was back in his prime years. I always thought he was cool, but I always believed that he was overpushed. But I have been a fan, off and on of Edge. There's moments when I think he's pretty good. But this recent incarnation of Edge is actually pretty good. And I actually enjoyed both the matches with Randy Orton. But his desire but this video is going to be about the good and the bad of his reactions to these things. But it's mostly going to be negative. I don't think he should care that much about what people who are influenced by wrestling journalists and all that type of stuff have to say about his matches. We already know how that works, but I did enjoy some of the stuff that he said. I don't think he needed to say it, because I think that the wrestlers nowadays, due to social media, they're talking too much. Again, I've said this before. They need to keep kayfabe. They need to kayfabe it. Don't sell that if you're unhappy with the response to your match. Don't tell anybody. Keep it to yourself. But now everybody's doing all the interviews and podcasts, and everyone's always talking. And that means gives you an opportunity to complain about the complainers. Again, I like both matches. I think the Backlash match was badass. I was one of those people who think that the WrestleMania 36 match with Randy Orton probably could have took about 10, 15 minutes out of it. But ultimately, I thought the match was good. But we're going to read his response to criticism of both matches. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on his criticisms of his matches. So let's talk about WrestleMania 36. This was from After the Bell, which is Corey Graves' podcast. He says, "We had a lot of things that we had to adapt around on top of doing it within the empty arena. The time that we filmed it didn't coordinate with the ideas we had, so we had to find that out on the day, hours before, so we had to change everything, and that's truly what you saw, was a 40-minute audible, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that we, without uttering two words to each other, were able to do that. I'll always be able to look back, and again, I thrive on challenges, and I love challenges. Can we talk about a massive challenge? Can we do this? Can we pull that off? It's a very, very challenging thing on top of the challenges that we are already there." He's saying the word challenges a lot. But again, that's part of the gig. That's part of your job. Okay, so this is where Edge is good, because Edge has been in the business for so long. He can audible with Randy Orton, and they can come up with this, what I think is a pretty damn good 40-minute match. Again, I don't see why a match needs to be 40 minutes. Sometimes that's just not called for. Unless it's an Iron Man match, it doesn't really need to be that long. I get the story that they were telling at WrestleMania 36. A friend of mine said, like, "Oh, this is the best match, of the night, best match of the weekend." And no, I probably would have to give it like third best match of the weekend or something like that. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible. A lot of people complained, like they were deluged in complaints about how long the match was and that it was boring and blah 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 blah. And some of these are the same people who, just recently, Minoru Suzuki and Yuji Nagata slapped each other in the face for 5 minutes and then did little else for the rest of the match for another 15. And people said it was the match of the year. I've seen guys lay around in matches far more than Randy Orton and Edge did and get 5 stars. So these people, what Edge doesn't understand and why he needs to shut up and stop talking is that a lot of these people are biased against him regardless of what he does, because he's doing it in a WWE ring. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what he does. As long as he's doing it from the Performance Center, it's going to get downgraded. You can look at, just how people put quote unquote stars on matches. Sometimes a match gets an extra star just because it didn't take place under the WWE banner. There's been some pretty shitty matches, man, that have gotten pretty good ratings. But those things are subjective. People can come up with whatever they want. They don't have an objective standard. They don't, and then of course if they do have an objective standard, they can then create wiggle room to fuck that up. But those people are the people who can manipulate and influence other people. And I did see, notably Brian Alvarez and people like that complaining about the length of the match at WrestleMania 36, that it was too long and it was boring, etc. And maybe that's why Edge felt that he needed to complain. But that didn't do you any good, because that didn't do shit but make people double and triple down. So he didn't learn from the April situation. So here comes Backlash. They have another pretty long match between Randy Orton and Edge. This match was infinitely better than the match at WrestleMania, just because there was a crowd there this time. I still enjoyed the story. It was a great match. And Edge got criticized again. The match was too long, even though this is a main event match. And it's cinematic, and they're doing all the bells and the whistles, and for some reason people still think this match was too long. This match was actually was good. I don't even remember how long that match was, because it was a long match that didn't feel long. But this is what Edge had to say about the criticisms of their Backlash match. We had Backlash, and I was happy with how it turned out. Contrary to the experts, it was not taped over 7 or 8 hours. It was once straight through, and then we did 4 pickup spots. I've seen people complain about the under the rope shot of the DDT. That's a total of 2 seconds. If that ruined the entire match for you, then you have bigger issues. I get it. Everyone needs something to complain about, but that was a huge test to see where I'm at in this new incarnation of how I want to wrestle going forward. I know some of our audience is conditioned to 52 super kicks, 82 flip matches. That's not going to be me. It was never going to be me, but especially not now. I want the match where Bret Hart, Undertaker, and Gerald Briscoe are going to text me after. If that takes a re-education of the industry and fan base, then so be it. Now, I think that these 2 quotes that he used, I think that those are perfect. For starters, in the previous quote, he talked about challenges. And in this, he's talking about re-educating the audience. In other words, he's going to take up the challenge of re-educating the audience. And this is why I say, God bless Edge. This is where I actually have the good feeling that I'm glad he came back. Because we need people with this attitude of, we're not doing unnecessary high spots. We're not working unnecessarily fast. We're going to slow down, tell our stories, take our time, get our shit in, but we're going to do all the good stuff that comes with wrestling as far as storytelling and the visual, body language and facials and all that type of stuff. The kind of stuff that Gerald Briscoe's a fucking old guy. Gerald Briscoe's like 80, okay? If you can get a match that he would enjoy, and Bret would enjoy, and Bret's 60, and Undertaker's in his 50s, so you're talking about different generations of people that are different ages. And I guess he used these individual names for a reason, because you talk about going back pretty far, a match that an older guy can appreciate, then a match that, younger guys can also appreciate. And yes, it was a kind of a slap in the face to the faster paced matches, which of course I hate. Hands up on people who hate those matches, and I'm one of them. I used to love Adam Cole, but until the Johnny Gargano stuff, like when he had those matches with Johnny Gargano, I wanted to rip my own bottom lip off at how unnecessary a lot of the stuff he was doing in those matches were. And I actually started to hate Johnny Gargano too. Like all of the leg slapping and unnecessary Canadian destroyers and all that shit. I could not stand it. I still can't stand it. I have not. Most people are, those are 5-star classics. I have not gone back and watched either one of them. There's just no need to. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, I don't even remember what happened in the last 5 or 6 minutes of those matches. And those matches were long too, by the way. And I think one of those matches was a good 35, 40 minutes. Okay. And then the last couple of minutes, it was just like bang, 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 pinfall. I'm like, fuck this. Okay. But I'm glad that Edge is taking up the challenge, because that needs to take place. There needs to be a balance between the guys who are working unnecessarily fast and doing all the flips and the leg slapping, and people who understand how to draw emotional content out of these matches and make everything mean something, so you don't have to do as much, and dictate the strong storytelling efforts of pro wrestling. And I'm good. And I don't need him to go on in podcasts or whatever and complain about it, but I'm glad that he's willing to take up the challenge of being a guy who's not going to try to fit in and trying to keep up with these young guys who are doing all this unnecessary stuff. And maybe it's kind of a, well, no, I was about to say maybe it's kind of a shot at some of the older guys who are trying to keep up, maybe like a Dustin Rhodes who was like in AEW doing Canadian Destroyers, but Dustin still doesn't work that fast, but because he's smarter than the average bear, he just does, he conserves his stuff, he kind of breaks out little things here and there, but mostly he just conserves his energy. But that's kind of the smarter thing, like Dustin has been a boon to AEW because of that, because he's an older guy who can still work, and he has the natural storytelling elements from having wrestled for 15 years or whatever, 20 years in fucking face paint, in a bodysuit. He has certain things as far as body language and facial expressions and psychology that he can impart on the young people, but he's still fit enough to keep up with them physically. So he has been a boon as far as AEW is concerned. And I think Edge can be similarly a boon to the WWE by slowing down people, showing them that you don't need to do all this stuff in order to get over, that your matches can get over and become and be highly successful without jumping through so many hoops. Now the negative is all the younger wrestling fans who want the ballyhoo, the thigh slaps and moonsaults, they're not going to like it, okay? And those people are going to be on social media complaining. Edge has to get thicker skin and get off social media. Like, he was complaining all about the greatest wrestling match ever. He was during the lead up to it, he was talking about he didn't like it and he didn't want that tag on the match. It was unfair to him and stuff. I'm like, stop it. Pull back. Just turtle up on it. Don't sell it. Don't say anything. Like, wrestlers need to get back into that, like I said, back into that kayfabe of just stonewalling things. Yes, things people say online are going to piss you off, but you don't need to respond. You don't need to feed into it, because it does nothing but, of course, feeding the trolls. There's a lot of people out here who, again, don't like you already because you work in WWE and you didn't go to AEW, or you didn't do something else. You didn't stay retired or whatever. You're working during the pandemic. There's a lot of people who are mad about that too. Just, you're working during the pandemic. You shouldn't be working. I'm not working. You shouldn't be working either. There's a lot of stupid people out here. And you can avoid all those people by posting pictures of your kids or whatever, tweet about your family, and then shut it down. Just shut it down. But what do you guys think about Edge and Edge's criticisms and his criticism of the criticisms? And did you enjoy the matches with Randy Orton? He's going to be out for a while, so who knows when the hell though he's actually going to be coming back. But like this video, share. Thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you guys later.